One of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta. It's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Live.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Live Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the Crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Puig birdie eight, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back with you. Our great edition of this show is on the air every day, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for being part of your streaming options throughout the day today. On our program, we have Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report, the very latest on sports betting coming up in about 30 minutes from now. Also sporting news as Carlan Gay weighs in on the Olympics. We'll talk some basketball. We'll also hit on some soccer as Team USA reeling after yesterday. In addition, a special guest that's going to talk some Rams football as, of course, training camps underway across the league. And the Hall of Fame game, folks, believe it or not, is coming up on August the 1st. So training camps underway. We've got NFL preseason and plenty to get to here on today's show, not to mention Major League Baseball and the trade deadline coming up next Tuesday. But the biggest news for us is the rights fees that are going to the National Basketball Association in this battle between TNT and essentially Amazon Prime. And it looks like the winner of this indeed is going to be Amazon. Now, let's be clear. Next season, the NBA will remain on Turner. But after that, it's headed over to Amazon and NBC. I probably should have put NBC first because they make such a big deal about it yesterday, playing the old music from the NBA, getting us back excited for the way it used to be. I got to tell you, make no mistake about it, Amazon Prime is going to have a huge footprint in this. It is $1.8 billion a year to continue the long-time relationship with the league. And unfortunately for them, it is going over now to NBC. The media rights deals were approved. The league's board of governors last week will bring the league about $76 billion over 11 years. Warner did match, but either way, it doesn't make a difference at this point. Their proposal is going over to Amazon and NBC, and so therefore the long-term agreement goes to the streaming option. And essentially the reason why the NBA decided to do this is because they felt that streaming is the way to go, cord cutting is the way to go as well, and you see the statement from the NBA as well there, which essentially is telling you all you need to know. Right now, Warner Brothers Discovery most recent proposal did not match the terms of Amazon Prime's video offer, and therefore we have entered into a long-term arrangement with Amazon. So get ready for NBA on NBC again, but get more ready to have streaming options on your Amazon Prime devices. And just like we are streaming, they are streaming as well. Probably the better choice for them as well. WNBA, not to be outdone, announced their new deal, 11-year media rights deal on Wednesday, featuring partnerships with Disney, Amazon Prime, of course, and also NBC Universal. The deal is valued at about $2.2 billion, $200 million per year. This is according to ESPN. Future agreements, additional partners could bring the deal closer to $3 billion. What does that mean? It means that some other entities could broadcast games outside of that individual deal. It's the same thing that Major League Baseball has, as you know. It's the same thing the NFL has, where sometimes these games air on other places like Peacock and Apple, etc. All right, so that's the very latest in media rights deals. Hopefully you got that. Now on to soccer. What a crazy finish yesterday. You're not going to see this, I don't think, ever again. Morocco and Argentina. Fans got crazy. There was a game-tying goal between Argentina and Morocco that essentially was overturned. They had to go back on the pitch and play it out again. Incredible finish yesterday, but basically they nullified Argentina's game-tying goal, and fans did not like to see that. And I'm sure sports bettors who had a draw did not like to see that as well. No draw in the cards for Team USA. They got spanked yesterday by France 3-0. They'll play Saturday against New Zealand. But, you know, there's no question at this point. Team USA is just overmatched, unfortunately. Young kids playing maybe for the future, but hopefully they beat New Zealand, but we'll see. Another player has withdrawn from the Olympics due to a wrist injury. Holger Rune has withdrawn from the Paris Olympics. They said on Wednesday he's 21 years old. He's ranked 16th in the world. He made his Olympics debut in Paris, saying that he was sorry that he's not being able to play in the Olympics. He was looking forward to it, but he is out, and he's not the only one. We'll get to that in a minute. Andy Murray has also withdrawn from the singles competition in the Olympics. He'll play doubles. It's the final event of his career. Of course, he announced his retirement. Three-time Grand Slam champion. He says he'll retire after the games. Final singles match of his career ends up being against Jordan Thompson. He was forced to leave with a back injury, unfortunately. Also in tennis, another player has been pulled out of the Olympics. Jannik Sinner, he is out because of tonsillitis. He's a really good player, but that means that Djokovic Alcaraz could be the matchup to get the gold, and they just faced off in Wimbledon. So they're the top-seeded men. Sinner is 22 years old. Doctor advised him he should sit out the summer games because of tonsillitis, so they're dropping like flies, unfortunately, at the Olympics. Not so much for Kevin Durant for Team USA in basketball. Durant practiced Wednesday, and Steve Kerr says there'll be a big collaboration, that's the quote, in determining whether or not he will make his debut for Team USA this weekend. We'll see what ends up happening here. They say the plan is for him to get a scrimmage in, and if he looks good, that he could potentially play against Serbia. We'll preview that game with Carlan Gay of Sporting News coming up in just a few minutes. Also, an animal rights group named PETA, I'm sure you've heard of them, they've demanded that the IOC remove equestrian sports from the Olympics after six-time medalist Charlotte Duardin was provisionally suspended for mistreating a horse in leaked videos days before Paris in 2024. PETA says the video shows why the IOC must drop the sport from future games. Let's go over to Major League Baseball. The Subway Series, not one, not two, not three, but four, go in favor, of the New York Mets. They end up clobbering the Yankees in the set. Yankees, unfortunately, have been one of the worst teams in baseball over the last month and a half and are falling to the point where they're very fortunate that the Orioles have been beat around by the Marlins over the last couple of days. So the Yankees are still staying in East contention, very much in playoff contention, but obviously Aaron Boone, the manager of the Yankees, says they got to play a lot better.
I'm not defining. We got to play better, okay? We have it right in front of us. We're a really good team that has played of late. We need to be better. I'm not going to define stretch this or that. We got to go win, right? And we're right there. You know, we're watching, other teams struggle around us. We know we got to be better, okay? We got to, we're pissed off in there. We got a lot of pride in there. We have a lot of expectation in there. So stretch, slump, recent, I don't give it's we got to play better the rest of the way. And it's right there. I've said it's right in front of us. It is. It's right in front of us.
Pressure seems to finally be getting to Aaron Boone. Doesn't very often. It seems like maybe getting there. We'll see. All right, well, the Boston Red Sox, pressure's getting to them a little bit. They're falling hard since the All-Star break. The Rockies scored 20 runs yesterday on the Boston Red Sox. Incredible performance from the Rockies. Not all that surprising. They've done it before, especially at Coors Field, although there was some good news for the Boston Red Sox yesterday, as Alex Cora, who was set to become a free agent manager at the end of the season, has signed a contract extension for 3 years. Cora, the stabilizing force in the Red Sox dugout, despite changes in personnel and changes in general manager and president, etc. Cora is going to stay around. Meanwhile, he is back. Clayton Kershaw is on the mound today at home against the San Francisco Giants. He makes his debut on the season ahead of Chavez Ravine. 85 to 100 pitches for Kershaw, probably 5 innings as he makes his way back. He's missed the entire season. He hasn't played, but naturally after 17 years, he gets to call his shots, just like Roger Clemens did with the Yankees and Houston Astros. This feels very similar. Kershaw probably will just keep playing half seasons and try to win a World Series again with LA. This afternoon, we've got baseball action set to go off. It's camp day around the country, so noon Eastern starts in some places. The Nationals will take on the Padres. The total is 8.5. San Diego playing very good baseball lately. They are favored minus 165 on the money line. Also an announcement yesterday from Major League Baseball. The network has decided to open up purchasing their broadcast stream directly. They have a brand new plan for under $10. You can subscribe right now to Major League Baseball Network. We'll talk about this with Simon Applebaum on the show tomorrow. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back, time to dive into the Olympics. Can Team USA cover this big line against Serbia? Play next.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Next up is Tampa, who was very impressive last year with Baker Mayfield, Evans. They hooked up a ton, and they've already shown what they can do, but they're picking this team, the Falcons, over them. Explain that to me.
Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. Where a couple years ago, you really wondered if he finished his career as a Buck, but the Bucks wanted him to do that, and he's going to do that. He signed a 2-year deal for about $21 million a year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
They scored well. They defended like crap. Last game, they struggled to score. They defended great. We still have not seen the best out of USA basketball. So they showed they've won different ways. They still should win absolutely the gold medal. But they're playing with fire a little bit with their play, especially when you get to the medal round and it only takes is one game to lose.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Olympic action, of course, underway. Lots of folks going to be watching it this weekend. And, certainly soccer, basketball, those are the top sports going right now. And then, of course, a lot of other sports, which are really hard to decipher, some of them included. But to talk about all of that and more, we owe the pleasure. Carlan Gay is back with us here from Sporting News. It feels like it's been a little bit. Carlan just so busy at Sporting News covering everything, but he has carved out some time today and tomorrow for his wisdom and expertise here on the show. Carlan, it is great to catch up with you. How have you been?
I hope you missed me, because you're going to get your fill of me over the next couple of weeks here. It looks like we're going to be together for a little while here over the next 2 weeks.
Okay, good. Well, your picks are usually really good, so don't let me down here. Let's get started here with Team USA. Let's just call it what it is, man. That exhibition season, I don't care what the record is, it did not go well for them at the end. They needed this guy LeBron James to just come on strong in the end and win. And I don't know how many times I've been down this road, Carlan. It's like they always say, like, oh, but when the real thing starts, the light goes on. That's not always the case. Team USA takes on Serbia. We know who's on the Serbia side. It's a one-man show there. You know who the one-man show is, by the way. I don't need to say his name. We'll jinx it. 180.5 is the total. Team USA, the line is dropped. They were 14, 15 points. It's down to 12.5. So that is the million-dollar question, Carlan. Does Team USA turn it on for this game one, or is it going to be what we saw over the last week or so?
Yeah, it is going to be interesting, and you hit the nail right on the head. Yes, they went undefeated in the pre-tournament games. Yes, the record is all that matters at the end of the day for most that are playing the games, but the eye test also matters, right? They did not look good in getting to that perfect record at the end of things. And, you expect that, really. When you're bringing in alpha dogs, when you're bringing in the best player on the best teams of the NBA to come together on one team, it looks like what we saw in the pre-tournament games, right? Joel Embiid looks out of place. He looks like a player that, hey, if the system is not built around him, he's not going to find a way to manipulate the game or impact the game in any other way. And he just looked like a complete loss out there. Had some, I saw him getting on a bus. People were asking him to give his passport back. Like, he's going to hear it if he does not step up his game down the line. And this is the perfect matchup for someone like him to go up against his nemesis in the NBA, Nikola Jokic. You just mentioned it, right? He is the guy for Serbia. 3-time MVP, probably stole one from Nikola Jokic, honestly, a couple of years ago. And he's going to have to go out there and prove and earn his spot on this team, because guess what? Anthony Davis is playing behind him, and he played great in the pre-tournament games. Bam Adebayo is playing behind him. He also played really well coming off the bench for Team USA in those pre-tournament games. If Joel Embiid doesn't show up, he might be coming off the bench going forward for the rest of the tournament. But I will say this, they are going to cover the spread, in game number one. They are going to cover that spread, so go out and bet it, because I said it. But I do think that this tournament is all going to be about how Steve Kerr coaches this team. And we're really going to find out if Steve Kerr is one of the best coaches of all time. We know what he's done in the NBA. We know what he's done with the Golden State Warriors. The rings speak for itself, right? But that was a very talented team that he sort of had a head start on. This is a different scenario. In FIBA ball, you don't just have to coach egos, right? It's egos and X's and O's. There's 12 other teams that are out there that are coming to this, these games against Team USA where it is game 7 for them. It is the NBA Finals for them. Just one win against America at the Olympic Games, it is huge for that country, even if they go no further than that. So Steve Kerr's going to have his work cut out for him. And the way he's coached in the pre-tournament games, I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to get away without a loss going forward in the Olympics.
Now you know why we like having Carlan on the show. All right, so now let's take a look at the odds to win outside of Team USA. So who is the threat, Carlan? I know Team Canada, a lot of people feel like they're going to win several games in the Olympics. You also have France, who's pretty good. Serbia, let's be real here. Serbia has the same odds as France and close to Canada because of one guy, and it's Jokic, and that's it. So if he gets neutralized at all, I don't know that Serbia is even nearly as good as Germany or even Greece. But is it 3 teams? Is it 4 teams that have a chance outside of the U.S. to win the gold, or is there some sleeper that I haven't discussed?
Yeah, it's those teams that were on the screen outside of Canada. I honestly give Canada a bronze medal chance at these Olympic Games because I think if they meet Team USA in the semifinals, which is very likely, the style of basketball that Canada plays is very similar to the style of basketball that all the Americans see in the NBA on a daily basis. It's not going to surprise them. Where Team USA is going to get surprised is playing a team like Greece, playing a team like France, playing a team like Germany that does not have that one-on-one style of basketball. It's more of a team sort of environment. And a great shooting night, it's over, right? Like you have one great shooting night in a one-game scenario, it is over. We saw that last summer, really, at the World Cup of basketball. and Team USA fell to Lithuania. Team USA fell to teams that they shouldn't lose to because they got hot from three-point range, and that was it. So I expect that to be the case here in the Olympic Games. I would watch out for that second game, or the quarterfinals game that might trip them up because they'll see a team that would be hot and have confidence in themselves. So be careful about betting Team USA in that quarterfinal matchup, depending on who it is. They should still win the gold, but Canada is not the bet. Stay away from Canada.
All right. Tomorrow on the show, Carlan and I will dive into the rest of the basketball action against the spread and take a closer look at that. Let's end real quick on Team USA. Team USA gets spanked by France. I don't think that was a surprise. Some people thought, in terms of the line, maybe it'd be 1-0 or 2. It was even 3. So, 3-0 is not the way you want to go. Now, they take on New Zealand in the next matchup, and I would assume, Carlan, that they'll have a better chance to beat New Zealand than they did France. But there's been no inspiring soccer being played by Team USA at all recently.
You know what, Craig? I would say that they played really well against France. They got unlucky. They had 9 shots in that game, 3 on target, 2 of them hit the post. And if the one of the shots, that Paxton Arneson, that header right on the goal line, if he was able to put that in, that's a 1-1 game. It spiraled from there. You're playing France. Okay. You throw your hands up. That's one of the world-class teams. Now going forward, if they're able to get back on it and play New Zealand tough, I think they'll get back on track. What's very surprising, though, keep your eye on this team because in 2 years, when the World Cup's here, that is the roster that's eventually going to be representing the United States. So, a lot of positives going forward if they can get that win against New Zealand.
Yeah, minus 140 coming up this weekend. All right, Carlan, thanks again. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again tomorrow.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, Sports Grid Sound Off up next. Don't go away.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Next up is Tampa, who was very impressive last year with Baker Mayfield, Evans. They hooked up a ton, and they've already shown what they can do, but they're picking this team, the Falcons, over them. Explain that to me.
Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. Where a couple years ago, you really wondered if he finished his career as a Buck, but the Bucks wanted him to do that, and he's going to do that. He signed a 2-year deal for about $21 million a year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
They scored well. They defended like crap. Last game, they struggled to score. They defended great. We still have not seen the best out of USA basketball. So they've shown they've won different ways. They still should win absolutely the gold medal. But they're playing with fire a little bit with their play, especially when you get to the medal round and it only takes is 1 game to lose.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We're real excited around here. College football, folks, is right around the corner. I believe 1 month is almost to the day now. We are there. And, of course, NFL training camp's going on preseason next week. Let's check in with Big Ten Ben of the early line. Ben has his first look at the Ohio State Buckeyes. Anything less than a championship will not be forgiven.
Ohio State saw their rivals Michigan win a national championship in 2023 and said, never again. The Buckeyes have invested into the transfer portal and bringing back a ton of talent to Columbus entering the 2024 college football season. Will Howard, the transfer quarterback from Kansas State. Quinshon Judkins, the leading rusher from Ole Miss, now heads to Columbus. And Caleb Downs, the SEC Freshman of the Year at Alabama, now joins the defensive backfield for the Buckeyes. Ohio State, the second best price to win a national championship. Ohio State, the favorites to win the Big Ten, picked first in the Big Ten preseason poll, and Ryan Day and the Buckeyes with the highest win total in all of college football. If Ohio State comes up short of a national championship game appearance in 2024, the year can only be considered one thing: a disappointment. Craig, back to you.
He didn't use the word failure. He said disappointment, so maybe not as bad. Disappointment, a little bit softer than failure. I guess Ben doesn't want to go there just yet. I know somebody who also doesn't want to go there. That is the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Ryan Day. Jim Harbaugh's gone. He's in the NFL. So there really is only one goal. And at Big Ten Media Days, Ryan Day told the media exactly what the expectation is.
I think especially this time of year, the easy thing to do is focus on, the goals, focus on the end of the season. But that's really is a waste of time if we don't build the foundation right now. Now, our guys, they know what the expectation is. You've heard some of them say, what their goals are. We're not going to shy away from that. We want to win the rivalry game, be right in this stadium right here, win this Big Ten championship, win a national championship. We know that. But at the same time, that can't be our focus because that's a distraction from where we are right now. And so where this season goes and what this team looks like is going to look a lot different than it did last year. And this is a new journey. We've got to rebuild that to get to where we need to be. And that started last winter, but the next step is now in preseason, and so, we know what the expectation. Every time I've gone into a season at Ohio State. I guess this is going to be my 8th season now. 6 as the head coach. You expect to win every game. That's just what it is. And if you don't think that's the case, try losing a game at Ohio State. I mean, you're expected to win them all. So that's not new. We embrace it in recruiting, and we want to make sure that those type of people are in our program.
I think Ohio State right now is the favorite to win the conference, but there are a lot of experts that feel like Penn State should be the favorite to win the conference. I don't know if indeed that is true, or again, once the season starts, we'll get a better feel for that. But the Nittany Lions are just one of those teams that a lot of people feel have a chance not only just to win the Big Ten, but to get into the college football playoff, which is much easier, and maybe even win it all. We will see. All right, the strangest opening press conference from a coach that I've seen in a long time came from Deshaun Foster, former NFL player who's now the head coach at UCLA. Here were his opening remarks to the media about being the head coach and moving to the ACC.
How you guys doing? I'm happy to be here. Glad to be a part of this great conference. Finally putting two great emblems together, UCLA and the Big Ten. We're a school that's won, 123 championships, so this fits us being right in this conference. Football-wise, we're just excited. I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. I'm just basically excited, really. That's it. Any questions?
All right, we'll give Deshaun a pass. He must have been really nervous. It's the only thing that I can come up with. Some people are saying he was not prepared. I don't buy that. I'm guessing he was just super nervous doing his first press conference and saw all the people there and saw the lights, and no one told him just to picture everyone being naked, and he couldn't get through it. It's okay. He'll be a much better coach than that opening press conference. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back next, Sam McQuillan will join us from Legal Sports Report. DraftKings and VSiN end up splitting after partnering up several years ago. What happened? We'll see you next.
at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Next up is Tampa, who was very impressive last year with Baker Mayfield, Evans. They hooked up a ton, and they've already shown what they can do, but they're picking this team, the Falcons, over them. Explain that to me.
Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. Where a couple years ago you really wondered if he finished his career as a Buck, but the Bucks wanted him to do that, and he's going to do that. He signed a 2-year deal for about $21 million a year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
They scored well. They defended like crap. Last game, they struggled to score. They defended great. We still have not seen the best out of USA basketball. So they've shown they've won different ways. They still should win absolutely the gold medal. But they're playing with fire a little bit with their play, especially when you get to the medal round and it only takes is one game to lose.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. DraftKings in the news quite a bit over the last 24 hours, partnering up with the WNBA, but also leaving one other partnership. That will be the topic that Sam McQuillan and I start off with. Sam, great to have you back here on NewsWire. And let's start off with this story here. VSiN, the sports betting network that has been around for a number of years. Actually, full transparency, I used to be on VSiN all the time. I used to make weekly appearances on that show, of course, before SportsGrid became live, and now I am here with you guys on SportsGrid. But certainly they, built their own footprint into a 24-hour network on radio initially. And then a few years ago, DraftKings came in and took over some of the sponsorship and distribution, and now we find out that they're leaving that sponsorship and distribution. So what exactly is going on here, Sam?
Yeah, Craig, a few years ago when DraftKings actually bought VSiN, they fully took over the network, but as you well know, it's a network designed for sports bettors to find an edge, talk about, different books that have, better pricing here or there. So when DraftKings came in, they kind of just slapped their logo on a lot of things, and it was a lot of odds presented by DraftKings, which kind of conflicted with maybe the way the network was founded. But they paid $70 million at the time to acquire the network and do all of those things. And now 3 years later, we're talking about them selling the network back to Brent Musburger, the legendary broadcaster, and his family, which founded and built out this network. And kind of when this network was created, it was really one of the first of the time to talk about sports betting 24/7, have a place where you could always go. Now you have a lot of other places, including SportsGrid, FanDuel TV, all these different 24-hour sports betting networks, so to speak. So we talked about this deal being close last week. I believe there was a report that the Musburgers could buy DraftKings back. Fast forward a week later, the deal's complete. We don't know how much exactly. The parameters of the deal are very unclear at this moment. There was sort of some speculation out there that it could kind of mirror what Barstool did with Penn, selling it back to founder Dave Portnoy for $1. Now, it's not an apples to apples case because Barstool there was able to kind of take advantage of Penn all of a sudden needing to move quickly on ESPN, needing to get rid of Barstool as soon as possible, and really had a lot of leverage there. So it'd be hard to think of a similar situation with DraftKings where owning VSiN would conflict them from doing any other larger media deal. So it could mean a few other things. It could mean they have another move up their sleeve in terms of media partners. It could mean that, quite frankly, they just didn't really figure out how to make it a profitable partnership, besides couldn't mesh. The nature of VSiN obviously is a lot different than just using one book. So the CEO of DraftKings has been pretty vocal over the past year and a half about the need to find more efficient partnerships, and partnerships that are going to be really good for DraftKings, as opposed to just kind of, here's a lot of money, get our brand out there. So this could be part of that. But DraftKings also hasn't shied away from spending a lot of money on big partnerships lately either. They just paid like $750 million to buy a Jackpocket, which is a lottery retailer. So I imagine we'll hear more about this during DraftKings' upcoming earnings call.
Right.
We'll see if it's a pivot away towards media as a customer acquisition tool, or if they've got something else up their sleeve. It would be nice to get a price tag, but we'll just kind of have to see what else shakes on this tree.
Yeah, we just really don't know. Again, it would be hard for me to believe that it is similar to the Barstool acquisition for $1. But again, as you said, we don't know if they have something else that they had to get out of this and find something else. It did happen very quickly, I will say. I saw the rumor about it, and then the next week I did see VSiN, I think it was Brian Musburger, ended up making that post. Okay, so now bigger news as the WNBA and DraftKings make their partnership official. So good news for both sides, especially, I would say, Sam, very good news for the WNBA. Sam, even with sports betting being legal a couple of years ago, they could have never dreamed that they would be able to link up with a partnership like this. But the sport is growing wildly. The attention on it has been tremendous. And I think predominantly that's the reason why. I don't think anything simply has changed except for the WNBA's popularity.
Yeah, this is really a cool story, and one of the reasons I love covering sports business and sports betting in general. We're kind of seeing DraftKings, the money that they're putting in here, reflect really what's going on with American fandom and viewership. The WNBA is fresh off of an 11-year, $2.2 billion new media rights deal, so that's huge news. And now you're seeing companies invest, kind of put their money where their mouth is. We just talked about DraftKings. Maybe they didn't find VSiN, so great. Maybe they didn't make a lot of money off that deal. But the fact that they're doing a deal now, a partnership with the WNBA, they're going to be their second sports betting sponsor, comes after they stopped partnerships with other companies like ESPN that they didn't think was really bearing fruit. So this really says a lot about what they believe the WNBA to be currently as sort of a marketing tool, and where they believe it's going to go as well. So FanDuel previously had been the only sports betting sponsor, but now it adds DraftKings. DraftKings will have basically branding opportunities all over the WNBA's platform, including this new WNBA postseason push, which is going to be a content kind of platform that comes out at the end of the regular season. So DraftKings is pretty excited about that from a branding opportunity. They'll also get access to official league data, which is something that was talked about really early in the days of sports betting, companies getting the actual data from the league to verify the stats. It hasn't really shaken out where it's been a big deal if they don't have it, but DraftKings has also been pretty vocal about wanting to add more WNBA markets that mirror a lot of the stuff they've done with the NBA, if that's first basket, first three, those kind of things. So DraftKings really doesn't have to look far to see the popularity spike in the WNBA. They already reported before the year started that they expected money wagered on the sport to double from last year, which was already almost double the year before. Obviously, viewership is up a ton, I think 300% year over year. Merchandise sales are through the roof. So it's really cool to see as the WNBA rises, as viewership obviously spikes, you have companies coming in and investing in it and wanting it to grow more. So it's a really good sign for the league as women's hoops continues to grow. You have big tech companies like DraftKings coming in, and maybe there'll be a few more down the road too if DraftKings and FanDuel are successful with their partnerships here.
Yeah, and speaking of tech companies, we move ahead to Kambi, who, of course, they don't need to be involved in taking any money as sports betting operators, but they certainly have had a big footprint in the operators themselves and running some of the tech for it. Really good second quarter, Sam, for Kambi. I mean, this is a company we've talked about on the show for several years. It seems like their success continues to grow.
Yeah, Kambi's a really interesting case in the sports betting landscape. They basically outsource their tech to sports books that don't have their own tech or haven't built out their own tech. It's been a big trend lately in America for companies like DraftKings, Penn, that was Barstool, now ESPN Bet, to move off of Kambi and onto their own tech. We've seen kind of how hard that can be for some to maintain a competitive product. But good news for Canby here, with revenue up 6.5% year over year as they report second quarter earnings, and profit up 67% as well. The really interesting thing, I think, within all that is how well they did with international soccer, which they still have a ton of customers in Europe and across the world. So a lot of their business is tied to how well they do there. They had a 20% increase in betting volume this quarter, which is basically the handle. It's what the Europeans call a handle. So that means, they were taking more bets than ever on a super popular sport. And with that, they also posted a record hold of 10.3%. That's essentially what the sports books keep, which is the best ever. So it was really a great quarter. Thanks a lot to the Euros and Copa America, but also Canby's product has developed a lot. They were really vocal about this being kind of a test period for their new AI trading platform, and we're seeing it pay dividends. So as we expand to football later in the fall, maybe this is a good sign that that'll all roll over. It's going to be really interesting to see how these business-to-business providers survive now in this new sports betting landscape.
All right, Sam. Well, great stuff as always. We'll talk to you again next week. I know you're building a new little Sam studio. I'll look forward to seeing you when you have that in, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, can't wait. Thanks, Greg.
Very, very enthusiastic Sam McQuillan about his new studio. Story for another day. All right, coming up next, Jake Ellenbogen joins us. We've got Rams discussion on deck. Training camps open in the National Football League. We're trying to check in with as many camps as we can. Jake will help us out with the Rams next.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Next up is Tampa, who was very impressive last year with Baker Mayfield, Evans. They hooked up a ton, and they've already shown what they can do, but they're picking this team, the Falcons, over them. Explain that to me.
Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. Where a couple years ago, you really wondered if he finished his career as a Buck, but the Bucks wanted him to do that, and he's going to do that. He signed a 2-year deal for about $21 million a year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
They scored well. They defended like crap. Last game, they struggled to score. They defended great. We still have not seen the best out of USA basketball. So they've shown they've won different ways. They still should win absolutely the gold medal. But they're playing with fire a little bit with their play, especially when you get to the medal round and it only takes is one game to lose.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. NFL training camps, of course, are off and underway right now when we begin our discussion as we talk some Los Angeles Rams football. You can catch him on the Downtown Rams podcast alongside Alexis Kraft. Also, Jake Ellenbogen, of course, covers all things Rams, also Yankees as well. I know that makes our producer happy. But our focus here is the Rams. Jake, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Craig. I'm happy to be here.
All right, let's get started here. The Rams, of course, coming off a season, I don't know what you would call it, honestly, a little anonymous season, I would say the best probably way to describe it. Training camp's underway. Let's start with the feeling. I mean, every team's going to feel like they're going to win 11, 12 games. I'm sure the Rams probably think that's going to happen as well.
Yeah, I think going into this, the Rams feel really good. They took care of the Matthew Stafford deal. Now, there wasn't really a ton to that. He just wanted more guaranteed money. If anything, it's kind of a sign that he wants to stick around. There was no more guaranteed money left on that deal, so they got that taken care of. They just, Tutu Atwell himself, the fourth receiver on this roster who they drafted in the second round of 2021, he actually came out and said that he's going to be the kick returner. And with the new rules, that's pretty exciting. They went out and added a bevy of free agents, including guys like Darius Williams, who was already here in the past, and Tre'Davious White, who, we all know he could play great football. Can he stay healthy is the question. Unfortunately, we just found out, I found out an hour or so before this, Darion Kendrick is feared to have torn his ACL. So that obviously doesn't help. The room does get a little, dampened there because, they have a lot of talent there. Kobe Durant is there. Akello Witherspoon was their number one corner last year. He is available. I do think they should bring him back. But the thought process right now, all injury aside and everything, is they feel like Cooper Kupp is going to be 110% for this season. He was not at any point really healthy last year and still mustered, 400-yard games. Then you have Puka Nacua, who put on more weight. He's faster. He's more explosive, worked all off season with Cooper Kupp. So they feel really good about those two. They really feel excited about Kyren Williams, going into his second year as the starter. They love what they have with Blake Corum. Really, I would say the big thing that kind of separates this Rams team from other Rams teams is while they don't have an Andrew Whitworth at left tackle, this is probably the most exciting offensive line they've had in quite some time. Alaric Jackson is a very good player in his own right, but they went out and they had a backup plan in case they lost last year's right guard, one of the best guards in football last year, surprise for a lot of people, Kevin Dotson. So their backup plan was to go out and get Jonah Jackson. They ended up signing Dotson before the free agency period happened. And so what ended up happening is they fell so in love with their backup plan, they said, why not get them both? So now they have Jonah Jackson and Kevin Dotson, and they've moved Steve Avila from left guard as a rookie to his natural position at center where he used to play at TCU. And they have big old Rob Havenstein, who is just a model of consistency in his own right. When you factor in everything, they feel really good about this offense. And the defense, adding guys like Braden Fisk and, of course, Jared Verse, they're very excited about this roster. And I think the expectation right now, if I'm being honest with you, has got to be Super Bowl.
Wow. Okay. That's a high bar to set for the Rams, especially without. Yeah, no, it is. Without Aaron Donald, too. And I do want to mention him before we move forward one more time here, because I do think, Jake, it's worth mentioning that this is probably the best player ever at his position at defensive tackle. But if the expectations are that high, I guess they feel that things will go in the right direction there.
Yeah, I'll say this. Aaron Donald is by far, and I think he might be the greatest player we've ever seen. Now, I know, the GOAT conversation, all that. Normally that's just quarterback, but I don't know if I've ever seen anybody more dominant. And I've never seen anybody be a number one at a position and then have the number two be that far away from him. So, yes, Donald is a massive loss. I definitely don't want to discount that. But last year, the way they were built, it really put a lot of strain on guys like Akello Witherspoon and Darion Kendrick, to cover these guys because they weren't getting a lot of pressure outside of, Kobe Turner, who probably should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year, if I'm being honest, was fantastic last year, and they'll have him, of course. But aside from him and Aaron Donald and Byron Young at the beginning of the season, they really didn't put a ton of pressure on the quarterback. So they made it known they were going to do that. They're very excited about Bobby Brown going into this year. He gets a bigger role. They're excited about Desjuan Johnson, last year's Mr. Irrelevant. And they're also very excited about, of course, Fisk and Verse, who both played at Florida State. They did not lose a game when playing with each other, and they're going to add some juice to that pass rush, which at the end of the day, that's really what they missed last year.
All right. So the bottom line is that before we take a look at their season win total on FanDuel, which is 8.5, which tells you that at least they feel, Jake, they're about a 500 team, maybe a little bit better. You have set a higher expectation for that, but do you believe that? Do you believe that this is a team that can win? I mean, minus 144, that's a lot of juice, but 9 games, 10 games, something along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, injuries happen. This is a game full of injuries. Matthew Stafford has been relatively healthy. He's had his moments where he gets banged up. That's Matthew Stafford. As long as he stays healthy, this team should win 13 games. They are that good. And last year they won 10. I had them winning 10. I actually have them winning 13 this year. And I think this is the first time in Sean McVay's tenure that they're going to take the number 1 seed in the NFC, and I have them playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Well, I think right now the bigger question is if they do get to the Super Bowl and they play the Kansas City Chiefs, can somebody beat the Chiefs? I mean, Jake, can that happen eventually? Because I think that's been the hardest thing to accomplish. Can we show the odds to win the division real quick? Do you have them winning? I don't know if we have time. Can we have them winning the division at plus 330? That's a big bet, Jake. Plus 330.
Absolutely. They closed the gap considerably on the 49ers last year. They finally got the monkey off their back. They beat them with Carson Wentz, obviously when some guys were not playing. But I saw week 2, a young team without Cooper Kupp just figuring himself out. And they went toe-to-toe with the 49ers in the home opener.
All right, Jake, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Next up is Tampa, who was very impressive last year with Baker Mayfield, Evans. They hooked up a ton, and they've already shown what they can do, but they're picking this team, the Falcons, over them. Explain that to me.
Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. Where a couple years ago, you really wondered if he finished his career as a Buck, but the Bucks wanted him to do that, and he's going to do that. He signed a 2-year deal for about $21 million a year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
They scored well. They defended like crap. Last game, they struggled to score. They defended great. We still have not seen the best out of USA basketball. So they've shown they've won different ways. They still should win absolutely the gold medal. But they're playing with fire a little bit with their play, especially when you get to the medal round and it only takes is 1 game to lose.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got a lot of topics to cover here with our last lick segment. We're going to talk a little Cincinnati Bengals, a new NIL deal, and of course, with training camp underway, that means that players are not exactly in the best shape of their life. I'll tell you more about that. Let's get started. It's time for some last licks. All right, well, we get started. I know, look, if you've watched this show before, I've said it a lot that I think the UFL, United Football League, XFL, et cetera, is a big waste of time. So you can take this however you want it, but there is a player named Akeem Butler who was the player of the year in the UFL. Full transparency, I was not aware of this, but he is working out for the Cincinnati Bengals. So how do we take this? That's the question. How do you take it? Let me give you the positive. Let me give you the negative. We'll start with the positive because I like to do positive stuff at the end of the show. The positive is if you play in the UFL, there is a chance as like this sort of pseudo minor league football that you'll get an opportunity in the NFL. That's the good news, okay? That's the positive news. The negative news is that this dude is the very best player in the UFL, and the best he got amongst all the other players in the UFL was a tryout with the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know. What kind of message does that send? If you're in the UFL and you're the very best, you may get a tryout. What about everybody else in the league? Now, I understand there are some other players that have gotten tryouts and things of that nature. But to me, it doesn't really change my thinking at all with this process. Unfortunately, it's not like minor league baseball. It's not like the G League in the NBA and some of these other developmental leagues. The developmental league in the NFL, it's college football. That's it. There's nothing else. All right, let's move on. Another topic I want to cover here in the world of NIL, this young woman here, her name is Nijari Kennedy. First time I had ever spoken her name. It's like two people. I've never spoken their name before on the show. We get to do it back-to-back. A softball player who is getting an NIL deal, folks. Now, this is a great story, by the way, all positive here. Because if you have a daughter that is trying to play sports at any different level and you think to yourselves, well, you know, my daughter can't play Major League Baseball. What is she going to do? Maybe at best play softball, maybe go to the Olympics or do something like that. Not so much anymore. Nijari Kennedy gets a $1 million NIL deal to play softball, the very first of its kind in softball. So there you go. Strong future for girls playing sports as well at the collegiate level. This is something I absolutely love to see. In addition, this is something I don't love to see. Now, I got this information this morning from my producer, Frank, because it's a guy that played on the Jets, of course. I forgot Mekhi Becton wasn't even on the Jets anymore. And I thought, oh, here we go, another Jets story. But he's actually on the Philadelphia Eagles. Mekhi Becton at training camp yesterday. It's hot as you know what out. Here in South Florida, they're like calling for 105. I was in Texas. It was like 103. It's hot in Philadelphia, too. Mekhi Becton took the field for training camp yesterday. And these reports say he threw up 10 times. This is right. It says 10. Is that right? 10 different times on the field at training camp and didn't miss a beat and kept back out there and going. And again, there's no two-a-days anymore in training camp. But full squad, full pads. I think this is full pads. I'm not positive. Definitely with his helmet on, as you can see. I got to tell you, I don't know how these guys do it. These football players are not paid enough to run around in that heat in uniforms. I mean, it's brutally hot right now in August and September. And Mekhi Becton, I don't know, he's had a checkered career to say the least in the NFL, and maybe this is his highlight here, throwing up on an NFL field. I don't know. All right, that'll do it for the show. Thanks again to Carlan Gay from Sporting News for coming on the show. Really appreciate his contribution, and he'll be back with us tomorrow here on the program as well. In addition, we talked some Rams football. Jake Ellenbogen was on the program, so thanks to him. And also thanks to Sam McQuillan from Sporting News. Now, as far as our schedule the rest of the day, if you haven't caught our new programming schedule, Kaplan and Crew is coming your way live at 1 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you catch that. Scott Farrell, 3 o'clock, followed by Game Time Decisions, in-game live primetime, and Gabe tonight on the ever-popular Sports Rage show this evening and overnight from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern. Also, thanks to our producer, Frankie B., I'm Craig Mish. That'll do it for this edition of NewsWire. We'll be back to wrap up the week-long edition of NewsWire on tomorrow's show with some Olympic updates and getting ready for the Major League Baseball trade deadline. I have a feeling we're going to see some activity soon. At least my phone seems to be telling me that. As of right now, I got nothing more for you. I wish I did. But that'll do it for the day. Follow us on social media. Maybe we'll have something. Have a great day, everyone.